told you to quiet down, but now you wear a crown. Visionary queen with a spark.
Welcome to You Matter in Business with Ariel Faith, your brand, your story, and your success, because you matter in your business. Welcome back to You Matter in Business. This week we welcome Rachel Speckman. She is a career invention specialist who helps high-performing professionals escape the trap of high-paying but soul-sucking careers. With 15 years in marketing and 10 years helping startup founders and 5 years as a therapist, she brings a unique perspective to career transformation. Rachel specializes in helping accomplished professionals make the leap from financial success without fulfillment to a work that aligns with their values and purpose without sacrificing their income. And I apologize again, but we had a little bit of internet connection issues. So Rachel, you'll notice, will come in and out a little bit. We tried our best to clear that up, but welcome, Rachel. Let's start with our first question. Why do so many smart, accomplished people stay trapped in careers they secretly hate? And I can think of several people I know that are in this spot right now, but even though they know it's not aligned, I mean, they know it, they feel it,
Right.
but they still stay there.
Okay. Well, the first thing I'll say is there's no shame, right? We want to leave shame out of this as possible because I firmly believe we're all doing the best we can do. I know you weren't saying that to shame, but some people come to me and say, "Why didn't I come to you 5 years ago?" Which is a very flattering question to be asked. And also when we arrive at the moment of kind of trying to get unstuck, that's right on time. But I think many people stay stuck for, as you said, a variety of reasons, but the top ones that come to mind are fear, fear of change, fear of income changing, fear of routine changing, so many fears, self-doubt, getting stuck in that trap, if you will, of lifestyle creep, or uh, really it's about the box that we have put ourselves in and saying, this is the box. And if I look outside of it, then all of a sudden the world is my oyster, and that can feel very overwhelming. And what I try to do with people is, okay, let's not go from this tiny box to the entire world. Let's expand as a little bit at a time so that we're flexing our own muscles to get unstuck.
Yeah, very good. It's like the comfort zone gets bigger, if you want to call it a box or a circle or whatever, but the more you expand, you only expand a little bit. But when that expansion becomes comfortable, then you expand more so that the box gets bigger, so to speak. Yes.
Right. And a lot of the reasons that people don't want or are afraid is that it kind of hits their panic zone very quickly. And so we have to find what I call the stretch zone in between comfort and panic.
Okay. Do you find it that some people are like, I put, 20, 30, 40 years into this one job. So if I try to pivot now, I just
Mhm.
wasted it. Do you feel, is that something that happens inside people's minds?
Yes, that's why I do bring a lot of, as you said, psychology to the work, because I'm a trained therapist. And so the narrative that we're telling ourselves, even our resumes or the self-judgment around that. Yes. And in the words of the great Dr. Maya Angelou, when we know better, we do better. So that job served you for 20 years. It did all of the following things for you, which is wonderful. And it's not serving you in the same way anymore. So what do we do with that data?
Yeah, exactly. I really like the living by this is just me personally, but the life is a journey way of thinking, because it
Hmm.
isn't about having a job or being in this career. It's about living a journey that can take you down different paths and different, it's part of the excitement of living. Is some
Yes.
of the different tacks we take. And sometimes we take a tack, we'll go off one path and we realize, yeah, I don't like that path. And then you just go pick another one. So, I mean, it's like you have this flexibility when you have the adventure mentality
I just
versus,
posted on LinkedIn today. Sorry to interrupt you. I just
that's
posted on
okay.
LinkedIn today. I'm teaching a university course it's called Career Clarity Through Mental Health. And there is a chart that I posted, and it's basically like a curve going all the way up. I'm happy to give it to you, versus a roller coaster. And we think it's just going to be a curve going up our careers, our lives, and it's actually a roller coaster, of course, with forward and backwards and upside down. And so it's once we start to change our expectations, which of course is hard for all of us because we want control over a lot of different things, that is when we can say, oh, I thought the journey was going to go here, but it's actually taking me here. And I'm actually much happier and in more alignment with my body, with my soul, with what sets me on fire, as I like to say, when I went on this unexpected path.
Yeah, 100%. I'll have to check that out. Just curious, what, since you are a therapist, so you have a deeper understanding of the physiological effects of some of the things we have that are emotional. So what are the mental and physical health impacts of staying in a work that feels misaligned to who you really are? So what is the unknown risk for staying in that uh, place that really you feel miserable on the inside? You might not admit it on the outside, but you know on the inside you're miserable.
Yeah, there are many. I think the most common physical ones, and some of this is from my own personal experience and from years of clinical work that I've done, is anxiety in the form of a panic attack or hypertension, chest issues, sweating, dry mouth. This is when your body is basically saying, hold on, something's not right here. We're afraid of something. We're not in the right environment. We're in a toxic environment, or we're out of flow, we're out of self, whatever you want to call it. There's a million terms for it.
Yep.
And we can't be in self all of the time, but if we get so far off, our body is kind of like, hey, you gotta get safe, you gotta be safe, right? And so that those are some of the physical components, let alone insomnia, depression, and then we have the mental health components, or beyond that, sort of the relationships. You have a hard day at work, you take it home with you, or you take that energy and you take it to your kids or your partner, uh, and it just the boundaries completely disintegrate. And so it does feel like there's just this swim, if you will, of physical ailments going on and some major mental health things. And it's very painful. It's very uncomfortable. And I can't reiterate that we don't have to live there. That is us saying, oh, I have to do something about this right now.
Yes. Something must change. So
Yes.
now all careers and all businesses and all jobs have frustration. That, I mean,
Yes.
that's part of normal careers and normal work, right? So
Yep.
how can somebody tell between a normal career frustration
Mhm.
versus a deeper misalignment to their values and purpose when when we've tripped that wire? What are some of the clues for the audience to say, maybe I need to figure out what is misaligned or what I need to work on next, or however you want to describe that?
Yeah, I'm going to steal something that one of my friends said about parenthood. I have a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old, and she said, "Is it annoying or is it a problem?" And I think it's a helpful mechanism to say, "Wait, this is frustrating me, but it's going to work out, or it's just not my preference." Versus a problem is, this feels, we got to do something about this. And there are three main areas where we run into problems, which is different than annoyance or frustration. Because, of course, we're always going to have annoyances and frustration, myself included, right? That's just part of being human, as you said. But the problems come when there's a lack of skill alignment. So I use the example that if I hate public speaking and my job is to be a public speaker, be a podcaster all day, it's going to be a very long day.
Yes.
Values, right? If my value, a lot of people's top value is flexibility, and I'm working at a place where I literally have to clock in, clock out, or that's the culture, or I have eyes on me, that's the value tension is going to feel very strong and disconnected. And then the last one is Are you interested in what you're doing? Are you curious? Do you give a you know what about making an impact where you are making an impact? And so that is, if we don't care deeply, because we're always going to have frustrations, but if we don't have a why or a bigger purpose or a community that we're doing it with, the overlap of those three, it's again the skills, values, and I call it your intellectual interests or your intellectual curiosities, the problems that you want to solve with our precious time, talent, and treasure, right? Then
Yep.
then then that's where we're going to feel really out of alignment.
Behind the lens, crafting tales and news.
Bring your marketing, your brand to life with storytelling and strategy. Cut through the noise with clear messaging and compelling visuals that resonate with your ideal client. We bring strategy, story, and visuals to help you with your marketing. Visit arieljoyfaith.com and schedule a consultation and see how we can help you bring your brand
No
to life.
selfies here, just genuine sight. Authenticity in every lie.
Okay, can you give me a good example using the analogy of a child, of a frustration or annoying thing versus a problem, for kind of creating a deeper level of the point?
How much time do we have? Okay. I mean, a frustration, I'll speak personally, is wow, they've been watching the tablet or playing for a long time. That's a frustration because I want them to be outside. A problem is when they can't transition away from it. They have meltdowns, they have tantrums. It becomes a big issue to deal with versus a smaller thing that feels a little annoying to me, but it's not something I'm going to have to address holistically as a problem.
Okay, so it's almost like the beginning of a habit or the beginning, like I think of children, I think of the noises they make sometimes, and you're trying to think, and it gets that to me is like no, annoying, or when they scream in the car or something like that. And we all know that happens, but it becomes a problem when it's no longer safe to drive because they're
Exactly.
screaming in the backyard or the back of the car.
That's a very good one, right? So problems are generally around safety, physical safety, emotional safety, psychological safety. Can you be yourself, genuinely make mistakes, be human? And some of those are financial safety, like do you trust this person? I mean, so there's a whole bunch of them that now we're talking a little bit more beyond children, but it's all based on uh, that idea of like, this is a problem because of this thing versus this is annoying and it will pass. So problem has
Okay.
a bit more of like a permanent, semi-permanent, we hope, quality to it.
Yeah. If we don't address it, it will not go away. Yeah.
Right,
Okay. 100%.
exactly. And probably grow and become bigger if we don't address it.
So if I have a professional listening right now and
Mhm.
they feel exactly what we're talking about, they feel it, um, it feels like their career path is totally misaligned at this point in their life, and it's really making them miserable. What kind of um, I know this is probably not an easy generic question, but what is your like path to help them? Do you have like a um, do this first, or what would be your advice to a person that feels stuck there?
Yeah. And I will say I do I do a 2 hour consult on what has caused you to be before we even talk about coaching. And I can share more about that, but I will kind of explain what I do in that consult. So that consult is focused on I do have a path out of where you are. First, we need to understand how did you get to where you are? So when did we
Okay.
either stop listening to our own clues for fear, for whatever the priorities were at the time, not in a blame way, but in an exploration way.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do we say, okay, here's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start with skill alignment. I just had a client earlier today and she's actually at a pretty great job and she likes her team, but her skills are not being utilized. So we actually created a new job description for her today based on her top 5 skills that she wants to be using. And she is pitching that to her boss. And that is what I help people with, which is I call it reverse engineering a career search. So the more you know who you are, the more you can say, this kind of environment suits me, this kind of boss resonates with me, that kind of event drains me, because we're all victims of yes, or that classic example is you start taking notes. Who wants to take notes for this meeting? And then you raise your hand because you want to be an initiative person, take a person who takes initiative. And then 10 years later, you're still taking notes
Yep. Or getting the coffee.
or getting the coffee. And you have more skills than this, right? And
Yeah,
so
way more.
way more skills. So, a very practical thing that anyone who's listening can do is I call it the internal skills audit or the internal day, really. So, there's kind of two parts to this. One is go back to your resume, really pull up your resume and say, within each of these jobs, what were the things that made me happiest? And nobody else needs to know about it. But I always use the example of like, I joined a remote team and I was afraid of remote work, or I moved to that city, right? So you're starting to build that muscle of, oh, I can make changes. Oh, I did something there. Because that's a big part of getting unstuck is the right mindset, the motivation, the consistency, that internal coaching work. And then once you've done this internal resume, I mean, you can put it in ChatGPT and say, what are the top 5 themes that you see from this? Oh, I like these kinds of values, right? And then all of a sudden you're gathering this data. Of course, you could pay a fancy software to do this, but it's pretty basic in this way, which is your internal resume. And then let's be present where you are right now. If you look back at the past 24 hours or 48 hours, what have you been doing with your time? Put that in an Excel document. I've been managing budgets. I've been doing these things. I've been podcasting, right? And then next to it, you want to write what percent enjoyment you have for that task.
That sounds
And
like a
that's where you,
good exercise.
right, that's where you can start to see, oh, wait, I was doing that for 70% of my day. This was me. I was doing marketing operations. I was the director of business ventures. And over time my enjoyment of that became much lower, and my what I called my genuine connections with people, which is why I had decided I wanted to be a therapist, that was 4% of my day. And I said, this is not aligned. I was working with my own coach at the time, but it is really actually quite like visual to see, and you can color code it green, yellow, red. And then what? Okay, well, how do I do less of the red and more of the green, really?
Yeah, I like that. That sounds really nice. Um, just so you guys know, we're going to come back with Rachel and we're going to talk a little bit more about building a career that celebrates true life in the next week's episode. But I wanted to just wrap up this week because she has such a good vision of both the branding, marketing, and therapy component, which is the psychological aspects of all of this. Um, how do you think external success and internal alignment need to work together to make a sustainable career? So one that you can maintain without losing yourself in.
Whew. So I like to think about it as a seesaw, right? And so if the seesaw is really heavily weighted on external accolades and how does this look and the performative measures, but
Okay.
internally I'm feeling defeated, deflated, disconnected, the seesaw is way out of alignment.
Exactly. Yep. I shared this experience before on this podcast, but when I was doing design and drafting and I was working for the local city and I was their quote professional, it was the weirdest thing for me because I wrote a book for them and all this stuff, but it all felt void, every bit of it. And it's like, this is like pivotal points in a person's career that I should be like proud of. And they meant nothing to me, on the other
Right,
side of it. And it was just
right.
like, that's an interesting thing. So when you feel that, that's what we're talking about, correct?
That Mine was speaking at an international conference. I was literally a speaker. I had flown there. I had pitched to be at this conference. I brought my family there. And I just said, I have no interest. This is quote supposed to be the penultimate of my career or one of them.
Yep.
And I was truly like more interested in talking to the person next to me at the restaurant. I mean, that's how disconnected I got. And generally this happens during transitions, by the way. So mine happened after a long fertility family planning journey where when I went back to work, I said, "Oh, I want to help people that are actually stuck, whether it's family planning or now all that I do is identity transformation work." I didn't have the language at all for that at that time, but I was just in what I call the wrong room. Um,
Yes, I've been in the wrong room a few times, but when you realize you're in the wrong room, you go to a new room.
you go to a new room because when we're
Yep.
stuck, that's when we start to make change. So to answer your question, I think a lot of it is I think it's a lot of micro attuning too. Like, ooh, that friend, I felt a little drained by her. Why? Okay. And this is where the therapist can be very helpful. Oh, I felt really alive doing that thing. Why? So that's the somatic work that I do with people, which is basically like body-based therapy, which is
Okay.
as you're going through your day, even talking, listening right now, are your shoulders slumped? Are you feeling kind of drained and withdrawn? Or are you literally feeling like your shoulders are open, you're in that receiving position? Because that can also be a very free, accessible compass for what's driving us towards excitement and not.
That is true. It's amazing what the body says when the mind is stuck somewhere.
Right, right. And again, not from a place of self-blame. I'm working with somebody who's in a very senior position, and she said, "But I should like this, but I should." Okay, but you've been doing it for several years, and you don't. There are parts of it that you do like. So how do we hold on to those parts and let other ones go?
Yes, and I'm a big proponent of the don't should on yourself because should is just a dangerous word.
Yep.
It's about awareness, and then when you are aware, you can then make the change, right? It
Hmm.
isn't about it was right or wrong. It isn't about you should or you shouldn't. It's about learning and growing and being
Yeah.
okay with that growth process, at least from my perspective.
100%.
Okay. Well, we're going to come back again with the next episode with Rachel, and I look forward to talking to you again. See you next episode. After all, it is your brand, your story, and your success because I know that you matter in business. Thank you for listening to You Matter in Business podcast. Please follow, share, like, and comment. I would love to hear from you. This podcast is sponsored by Ariel Faith Storytelling Marketing and Your Brand Photographer. The show notes provide more information on how to contact Ariel and more information about this episode. Thank you again.
They told you to quiet down, but now you wear a crown. Visionary queen with a spark, lighting up the dark. Rediscover your own fire, chase the dreams that lift you higher. Redefine your role today, brand new in every way. Build your confidence through my lens. Break the walls you put up since. Embrace your power, hear your roar. You are meant for so much more. You are meant for so much more.